Early Amazon explorers reported a creature that looked like a living dinosaur, and their fear, uncertainty, and isolation shaped their reactions. Protect your peace by staying calm in chaos. The story begins deep in the Amazon, where sunlight struggles to touch the forest floor, and every sound feels like a message from an unseen world. Early explorers, stepping into this vast green labyrinth for the first time, carried with them notebooks, rifles, and a belief that the world had no more secrets left to reveal. But the Amazon is a place that laughs at certainty. It is a place where the line between myth and reality becomes thin. So thin that even the bravest men begin to question their own senses. These explorers wrote about a creature unlike anything they had seen before. A beast with leathery wings, massive claws, and a scream that shook the very air around them. Some described it as a living pterosaur, something straight out of prehistoric time. They were educated men, trained to observe, trained to measure, trained to explain. And yet for a moment, their entire worldview collapsed. They swore they encountered something ancient, something impossible, something that should not exist. But here's the truth hidden behind their reports. Fear magnifies perception. Imagine being lost in a place where night falls faster than expected, where the fog moves like a living thing, and where unfamiliar sounds echo through the canopy. Imagine being far from home, surrounded by dense wilderness, exhausted, hungry, and mentally drained. In that state, even ordinary creatures appear extraordinary. A giant bat looks prehistoric. A shadow becomes a predator, a scream becomes a threat, and a frightened mind becomes the storyteller. The explorers weren't weak, they were human. And like all humans, they became vulnerable when uncertainty surrounded them. In life, the same thing happens to us. When you're overwhelmed, when life becomes too loud, when you're stressed, tired, confused, when the world feels like a jungle with no exit, suddenly small problems begin to look like dinosaurs. A minor setback feels like a disaster. A rumor becomes an attack. A delay feels like failure. A challenge looks impossible. Not because the challenge is truly that big, but because your mind is too overloaded to see it clearly. This is why protecting your peace is not optional. It is essential. Peace is not silence. Peace is not weakness. Peace is not running away. Peace is clarity. Peace is control. Peace is the ability to say, I will not let fear write my story. Those explorers realized something powerful after the encounter. Once they calmed their minds, once they rested, once they talked to each other, once they evaluated the situation again, they began to question what they actually saw. The creature felt less supernatural, less monstrous, less impossible. Their fear had inflated the moment. The same lesson applies to you. When something shocks you, when life surprises you, when people betray you, when unexpected problems appear. Pause, breathe, step back. You cannot think clearly inside the storm. You cannot make good decisions when emotions are louder than logic. You cannot see reality when anxiety paints it with shadows. Protect your peace first. Everything else comes after. Just like the explorers learned, your greatest power is not your strength, not your intelligence, not your speed. It is your ability to remain calm when everything around you is falling apart. Calmness is not the absence of fear. Calmness is the refusal to let fear control you. When you protect your peace, you protect your mind. And when you protect your mind, you protect your entire life. The explorers walked deeper into the Amazon with new understanding. They respected the jungle, but they did not fear it. They respected the unknown, but they did not surrender to it. They learned that the monsters we see are often reflections of the chaos inside us. So the message of Key Point 1 is simple yet powerful. Do not panic when life surprises you. Do not let fear magnify your problems. Protect your peace, and you will always find clarity in the jungle of your challenges. The jungle's darkness, sounds, and environment amplified the explorer's fears and imagination. Your environment can control your emotions, unless you learn to control your environment mentally. The deeper the explorers traveled into the Amazon, the more the jungle began to change, not just around them, but inside them. The Amazon is not merely a place, it is an experience, a world where time feels slower, shadows feel heavier, and every rustle carries a question. It is a living labyrinth designed to test the strongest minds and the hardest spirits. When those early explorers claimed to have encountered a dinosaur-like creature, people questioned their sanity. But few understood the psychological battlefield they were walking through. Imagine it. You're surrounded by towering trees that blot out the sky. The air is thick enough to feel like a weight on your chest. Insects hum like electricity in your ears. Every footstep sinks into mud that feels like it wants to pull you under. And between each breath, you hear something. A growl, a screech, a wingspan slicing through the night air. The Amazon doesn't speak to you. It whispers, and whispered danger is the most terrifying kind. In that environment, even the bravest heart begins to hesitate. The jungle strips away your comfort, your certainty, and your control. And when your surroundings become overwhelming, your mind becomes vulnerable. Imagination grows teeth, fear grows wings. A normal creature becomes a prehistoric beast. This is the power of environment. It can change the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you react. And the truth is, your life works the same way. Your environment is not just the physical space around you. It is the people you allow near you, the energy you absorb, the noise you tolerate, the chaos you entertain, the negativity you listen to, the stress you let into your heart. When you live in a stressful environment, you don't even realize how deeply it affects you. But slowly, piece by piece, it shapes your thoughts. It feeds your fears. It weakens your confidence. It magnifies your problems. It steals your peace. The explorers were intelligent men. They were trained to make rational observations, but even they could not escape the influence of an overwhelming environment. Their fear was not born from the creature. They saw the creature because of the fear. Your life is full of Amazon moments. Maybe it's a toxic home. Maybe it's a stressful job. Maybe it's negative people who drain your energy. Maybe it's a relationship that constantly pulls you down. Maybe it's a crowd that makes you feel smaller. Maybe it's a digital world full of noise and pressure. When your environment becomes too loud, too heavy, too stressful, you start to see things that aren't really there. You begin to doubt yourself. You overthink. You panic. You lose direction. And worst of all, you stop trusting your own judgment. This is where the message strikes hardest. Your environment can control your emotions, unless you learn to control your environment mentally. You cannot always escape the jungle. You cannot always avoid difficult places. You cannot always choose the world around you, but you can choose the world inside you. Peace is a decision. Clarity is an internal tool. Strength is a discipline. The explorers who survived did so because they learned to adjust their minds to the jungle. They stopped letting every sound terrify them. They studied the noise instead of fearing it. They observed the shadows instead of running from them. They learned the patterns of the forest instead of imagining monsters. When you strengthen your inner environment, the outer environment loses its power. The loudness around you cannot break you, if the quiet inside you is stronger. The fear outside cannot control you, if the courage inside you is louder. The chaos in your world cannot shake you, if the peace in your mind is grounded. The Amazon will always test you. Life will always test you. But when you master your inner environment, nothing external can take away your peace. Under pressure, the explorers struggled to understand what was real. In life, the unknown often feels like a monster. Protect your peace by facing the unknown with clarity, not panic. As the explorers pushed further into the uncharted Amazon, the environment around them was not the only thing growing hostile. Their own minds were turning against them. The jungle had a way of rearranging reality. What was clear during daylight became distorted by night. What felt logical yesterday became confusing today. Their journals show not only physical exhaustion, but mental erosion. The unknown was their greatest enemy. They entered the Amazon believing they were prepared: maps, tools, weapons, experience. But nothing prepared them for the nights when fear whispered louder than reason. Nothing prepared them for the silence that felt alive. Nothing prepared them for the sense that something unseen was watching their every move. On one of those nights, long after the fire died down, they heard it again, a scream tearing through the jungle, something between a giant bat, a bird, and a child crying out in pain. Every man froze. Their instincts shouted danger. Their minds imagined teeth, claws, wings. Their hearts pounded like drums, and in those moments of panic, perception became unreliable. Fear paints its own pictures. One explorer reported seeing a massive flying shadow crossing the treetops. Another swore he saw glowing eyes in the dark. Another felt like something large brushed past his tent. They weren't lying, they were overwhelmed. Their senses were amplifying the unknown. This is what fear does. It fills in the blanks with your worst imagination. And the unknown is the blankest canvas of all. In your own life, the same thing happens. When you don't know what's coming, when you cannot see what's ahead, when answers are missing, When the road is unclear, your mind becomes the storyteller, and not a gentle storyteller. It becomes a creator of worst-case scenarios. You don't know if someone is upset. Your mind assumes they are. You don't know how a situation will end. Your mind predicts disaster. You don't know if a new journey will work. Your mind tells you to quit. You don't know what tomorrow brings. Your mind whispers that you're not ready. This is the psychological pressure of the unknown. It doesn't attack you physically. It attacks your peace. The explorers were not being hunted by dinosaurs. They were being hunted by uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When the unknown surrounds you, your brain becomes hyperactive. It tries to fill the silence with explanations, predictions, warnings. But most of those warnings are built from fear, not fact. This is why you must protect your peace when you feel confused, when life feels unpredictable, when you don't know what comes next, when you feel lost. The worst thing you can do is panic. Panic makes shadows look like monsters. Panic turns noise into danger. Panic magnifies every fear. The explorers who survived understood this lesson. They learned to question their own thoughts. They learned to separate fear from fact. They learned to observe without overreacting. They began telling each other something powerful. Not everything unknown is a threat. Not everything unfamiliar is danger. This mindset saved their sanity. You must adopt the same mindset. When something new enters your life, don't run. When the future becomes unclear, don't break. When circumstances change, don't collapse. The unknown is not your enemy. Your reaction to the unknown is. When you face the unknown with panic, you lose clarity. When you face the unknown with calm, you gain control. Protect your peace by reminding yourself, what you don't understand today may become your strength tomorrow. What you fear now may become your breakthrough. What seems confusing may be guiding you toward growth. Life is full of hidden paths, but you will only see them clearly if your mind is calm. The explorers conquered the Amazon not by overpowering the jungle, but by overpowering their own panic. They survived not because the unknown disappeared, but because their courage grew. So key point 3 delivers a message as deep as the rainforest itself. Do not fear the unknown. Master your reaction to it. Protect your peace, and the unknown loses its power. Whether it was a dinosaur, a giant bird, or a misunderstanding, the creature represents life's biggest challenges. Most fears grow only because you give them attention. Protect your peace by focusing on solutions, not fears. As the explorers' journey continued, one truth became clearer with each passing day. The creature, whatever they believed they saw, was no longer just a creature. It had become a symbol, a representation of their deepest fears, their unresolved doubts, and the emotional battles they carried inside their own minds. They came face to face with a mystery of the jungle, but even more so, they came face to face with themselves. The Amazon is unforgiving. Days were heavy with humidity that clung to their skin. Nights were full of echoes that fed their imagination. Fatigue dug deep into their bones. Hunger sharpened their emotions. Every little stress piled up like a weight on their spirit. And under that weight, the creature grew larger, not in the forest, but in their perception. This is how fear works. Fear needs only a spark. You are the one who gives it fire. One explorer wrote in his journal, "The more I think about it, the bigger it becomes. The more I fear it, the closer it feels." That one sentence, written in fading ink, captures a universal truth. Fears grow when you feed them, and most people don't realize they are feeding their fears every day. You think about the problem again and again. You imagine the worst outcome. You replay every negative memory. You allow doubt to repeat itself until it sounds like truth. You magnify what scares you and minimize your own strength. And just like the explorers, your challenges begin to look monstrous, larger than they really are. The creature in the Amazon may have been a misidentification, a giant bat, a rare bird, a shadow between trees, or simply fear reshaping a moment. But in their minds, it became a dinosaur, a beast from a forgotten age. Because fear, when unchecked, exaggerates everything it touches. The same happens in your life. A simple delay becomes a disaster. A small argument becomes a broken relationship. A tiny mistake becomes a story of failure. A challenge becomes a catastrophe. A risk becomes an impossible mountain. Not because it truly is, but because your fear paints it that way. That is why key point 4 holds one message above all. Do not feed your fears, feed your focus. When you give fear your time, your energy, your thoughts, it grows. When you give focus your time, your energy, your thoughts, you grow. The explorers eventually realized this. They learned that staring into the darkness, expecting danger, only made danger appear in their imagination. They learned that the more they discussed the creature, the more it dominated their minds. They learned that peace does not come from knowing everything. Peace comes from mastering what you give attention to. Your peace works the same way. If you focus on fear, fear expands. If you focus on strength, strength expands. If you focus on chaos, chaos grows. If you focus on clarity, clarity grows. Most challenges in your life are not monsters, they are shadows. Shadows shaped by your stress, your past experiences, your environment, and your expectations. When you shift your focus, those shadows lose their power. The explorers eventually stopped obsessing over the creature and started focusing on surviving, navigating, and working together. As their focus changed, something interesting happened. The creature stopped appearing. Was it ever truly there? Maybe, maybe not. But the moment they stopped feeding the fear, the monster vanished from their path. This is your lesson too. Your biggest challenges lose their sharpness the moment you stop giving them emotional fuel. Fear is loud only when your mind is quiet. When you strengthen your peace, your fear loses its voice. So key point 4 teaches you one of the most powerful life rules. Fears are not defeated by running away from them. Fears are defeated by taking away their attention. Focus on solutions, not problems. Focus on growth, not obstacles. Focus on peace, not chaos. Focus on your path, not your fear. Because the creature in your life is not the problem. What you feed inside your mind is. Their survival came from teamwork, mental strength, and refusing to let fear control them. Protect your peace by choosing your inner circle wisely. The right people can pull you out of any jungle. As the explorers neared the end of their Amazon journey, they were not the same men who had entered the jungle weeks earlier. The forest had stripped away their certainty, tested their courage, challenged their judgment, and forced them to confront not only the wilderness, but their own minds. Yet despite everything, they survived, not because the jungle became easier, not because the unknown disappeared, not because the creature stopped haunting their nights. They survived because they did not face the journey alone. And this is where the final lesson begins. The Amazon did not break them because they supported each other. They talked when fear tried to silence them. They encouraged each other when doubt surrounded them. They shared their food, strength, and hope. They kept watch during the night so no one faced the darkness alone. They held each other steady when panic tried to take control. Survival in the jungle was not about muscles, weapons, or knowledge. It was about unity. One explorer wrote, "When the forest felt loudest, the only thing louder was the voice of my companions." That one line carries the deepest truth of human life. You become stronger when you are surrounded by the right people. And you become weaker when you are surrounded by the wrong ones. The Amazon is not just a forest. It is a metaphor for life's hardest seasons, the overwhelming days, the draining environments, the moments where you doubt yourself, the nights where fear creeps into your mind. And just like the explorers, you will face moments when your path is unclear, your fear is loud, your challenges feel bigger than you, your strength feels too small, and your mind begins to wander into dark corners. In these moments, your inner circle decides your outcome. If you are surrounded by negativity, toxic energy, jealousy, and people who belittle your dreams, your peace will always be under attack. Even the strongest person collapses when surrounded by the wrong crowd. But when you have people who support you, uplift you, remind you of who you are, and pull you back when you fall, you can survive any jungle life throws at you. Protecting your peace is not just an internal practice. It is also an external responsibility. You must choose who gets access to your emotions. You must choose who gets to speak into your life. You must choose who walks with you through the darkness. You must choose who stands beside you when fear appears. The explorers learned quickly that one weak mind can infect the group with panic, but one strong voice can guide everyone toward calm. That is how they navigated the thickest parts of the forest. That is how they overcame the nights when the creature's scream echoed across the canopy. That is how they made it out alive. Your life works the same way. When you surround yourself with people who bring chaos, criticism, confusion, drama, and negativity, your peace cannot survive. But when you surround yourself with people of growth, wisdom, positivity, faith, stability, and strength, your peace becomes unshakable. The explorer's final lesson teaches us, you cannot walk through life alone. Even the strongest need support. Even the bravest need encouragement. Even the wisest need companionship. Protect your peace by protecting your circle. Remove those who drain you. Distance yourself from those who doubt you. Detach from those who disturb your balance. Make room only for those who bring value, not chaos. The Amazon taught the explorers that survival is not a solo achievement, it is a team victory. And your life teaches the exact same truth. The right people will calm your storms, and the wrong people will throw you into them. So the message of Key Point 5 is the emotional conclusion to this journey. Choose your circle with care, guard your peace with strength, stand with those who stand with you, and never walk your jungle alone. With the right people beside you, even the darkest forest becomes a path toward light.